For over 120 years, Ford Motor Company has faced it all. We're talking near bankruptcy, truly catastrophic failures, and industry-wide collapse. And yet, here they are. This really isn't just a story about cars. It's a story about pure resilience, about a company that has stared into the abyss multiple times and just refused to die. And it all kicks off with one, frankly, unbelievable statistic.
48. For 48 consecutive years, a single vehicle has outsold every other car, truck, and SUV in America. That's the Ford F-Series. It's a dynasty that's pretty much unheard of in business. On its own, it generates more money than a lot of Fortune 500 companies. This, right here, is the face of Ford's incredible success.
And that is the central mystery, isn't it? How can the company responsible for such an untouchable runaway success story also have a history just riddled with near-death experiences? It's that contradiction, that contrast, that makes this story so fascinating.
So to really get how Ford keeps pulling this off, we have to go back, way back to the beginning. Because Henry Ford didn't just build a car company. He literally wrote the playbook for modern manufacturing.
From 1908 all the way to 1927, the world was basically remade by one single car, the Model T. But the car itself wasn't even the biggest innovation here. The real revolution, that happened on the factory floor and in the wallets of the workers building the cars.
I mean, just look at the cause and effect here. It is staggering. In 1913, Ford rolls out the moving assembly line, and the impact was just instant. The time it took to build a Model T plummeted from over 12 hours to just 93 minutes. This insane efficiency let Ford slash the price of the car by more than half, making it something the average American family could actually afford. And then came the masterstroke. In 1914, Ford doubled wages to $5 a day. Now, a lot of people think of this as this big, generous act, but really, it was just brilliant business. Employee turnover was a mind-boggling 370% a year. He couldn't keep his workers. The $5 day wasn't charity. It was a way to stop people from quitting. And in the process, he kind of accidentally created a whole new middle class of customers who could now afford to buy the very cars they were building.
But Henry Ford's laser focus on one car, well, that became his first huge vulnerability. While Ford was selling one car in one color, General Motors started offering variety. A car for every person purpose. By 1927, GM had zoomed past Ford. It forced the company to shut down for 6 whole months just to retool for the Model A. This was Ford's first real taste of disaster and its first great escape.
Look, every great company has its failures. But Ford's failures, they are the stuff of legend. These weren't just little missteps. They were spectacular. How did they survive that kinds of blunders that would have killed off a lesser company for sure? So let's start with maybe the most famous flop in automotive history, the Edsel. Ford spent what would be over $2.5 billion today to launch an entirely new car brand. They were convinced it was the next big thing. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The Edsel wasn't just undone by one thing. It was a perfect storm of failure. It launched right into a recession. Its design was, well, people made fun of it a lot. Quality was terrible because they rushed production. And on top of all that, Ford completely misread the market, which was actually moving away from the kind of car they were selling. The Edsel became a textbook case study in how not to launch a product. But hey, if you think the Edsel was ambitious, it has absolutely nothing on Fordlandia. In the late 1920s, Henry Ford bought 2.5 million acres of the Amazon rainforest. Why? To build his own private rubber plantation and a perfect American-style town right in the middle of the jungle. This is where industrial genius just smacks right into reality. Ford tried to impose a Michigan factory culture on Brazilian workers, who, not surprisingly, eventually rioted. He completely ignored the local ecology, planting rubber trees so close together that a native blight just wiped them all out. Fordlandia was a total, complete failure, a ghost town that's still there today, really a monument to corporate hubris. So after decades of these self-inflicted wounds and brutal market battles, Ford faced its ultimate test, the 2008 global financial crisis. This was the big one, the event that brought its biggest rivals right to their knees. This number. This number is the key to Ford's survival. In 2006, 2 full years before the crisis even hit, a new CEO named Alan Mulally made a huge, radical bet. He mortgaged everything the company owned, factories, patents, he even mortgaged the iconic blue oval logo itself,
all to get a massive $23.5 billion line of credit. And wow, did that bet pay off. When the economy completely collapsed in 2008, GM and Chrysler ran out of cash. They needed massive government bailouts just to survive bankruptcy. But Ford? Thanks to Mulally's incredible foresight, they had their war chest. It was the only American automaker to get through the crisis on its own, and that earned it a ton of credibility and market share.
Okay, so that brings us to today, because the challenges, well, they haven't stopped. The entire auto industry is now staring down its most disruptive transition ever, the massive shift to electric vehicles. And for Ford, it has been a painful and very expensive fight.
Get ready for this number. Since 2023, Ford's EV division, which they call Model E, has lost more than $10 billion. Ouch. EV adoption has been a lot slower than everyone expected, and battery costs are high. This created a whole new crisis, forcing the company into yet another big strategic pivot.
So, what do? Their response is a plan called Ford Plus. The company was split into 3 totally separate units. Ford Blue is in charge of keeping the profitable gas-powered icons like the F-150 and Bronco humming along. Ford Pro is focused on the massively successful commercial truck and software business, and that leaves Ford Model E to focus only on making the EV transition profitable, with a new focus on smaller, more affordable models. It's a classic survival move. Let your strengths pay for your big transformation.
So why does Ford keep surviving? When you boil it all down, these are the core reasons. The F-Series is like a fortress of profit. The Ford Pro commercial business has this massive competitive moat. They have a strong American manufacturing base, which helps protect it from things like trade wars. And finally, there's the continuous family control through a special class of stock, which lets the company make these huge long-term bets, like mortgaging everything in 2006 without being shot down by Wall Street's short-term demands.
And that really leaves us with this final thought. Ford's history is messy. It's filled with mistakes, some of them just colossal. It has never been the most perfect company. But after 120 years of crises and comebacks and constant reinvention, its story makes you wonder. Maybe, just maybe, the ultimate competitive advantage isn't about getting everything right. Maybe it's just having the grit to survive getting things wrong.